Hey, welcome to the show. It's your boy, Mahesh Chookolingo. So, I just want to do a quick episode on something, and I'm probably going to rant a little bit. Many of you, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that the views expressed and the opinions expressed on my channel are solely mine and of the guests that come to the show. Um, and I want to be clear that I am a huge supporter of people getting along, people understanding each other, people willing to engage in debate, discussion, argumentation, and people willing to go the extra mile to find a way to figure out how we can communicate our differences in a civilized manner. I, from time to time, would get passionate about my causes. My main cause that I seem to come back to over and over is freedom. I'm a huge proponent of freedom. Freedom, personal freedom, societal freedom, collective freedom. Okay? And there are certain limitations and parameters in any collective situation. So, of course, we know that there's going to be limitations to those freedoms and responsibilities. I'm not ignorant of that fact. But we have a problem developing in our American culture that should be addressed, and it should be seen for what it is. If you study your history and you go back in time and you look at Maoist philosophy and strategy, you look at communist strategy, you look at how a lot of cultures around the world were destabilized so that a tyrannical force could be implemented, and how sovereign rights were destroyed in those countries, you begin to see a pattern. And in the United States, on American soil, we are seeing that pattern developing over decades. And it was very subtle, but now it's in your face. Now I'm going to play a clip from Libs of TikTok. Ooh, I already caused some uproar because Libs of TikTok, there are people who are for it, people who are against it. I'm neither. I'm just more of an observationalist. And I watch and I listen. And then I do something in my head where I project out for the next 10 years, not even for the next 5 years. What's going to happen if we go down this road as a country, as a collective, as a nation, right? That's the way I think. I think that way. I look at things as they play out in the present moment, and then I close my eyes and I have these charts and graphs and balloons and images, and then I plot out what could play out in different directions, right? That's just the type of mind I have. Some people have it, some people don't. So I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to come back to it with my personal, again, disclaimer, my personal point of view. Okay? Here we go.
I don't understand what is so hard about correcting other people when they misgender others. Like, it takes you like 2 seconds, but you know what it takes for me to have to constantly do that? A lot of fucking unnecessary emotional labor that I already have to take on a daily basis just to fucking exist and be who I am. But you don't have the energy to speak up and say something on my behalf, and I just have to keep white-knuckling this? I don't understand what is so hard.
I'm going to cut it right there. So I also don't understand what is so hard in our society. I don't understand why we have an entire generation of human beings growing up on American soil who are so concerned with being gendered or labeled a certain identity, when we have people around the world dying of starvation, diseases, oppression, living in worse circumstances than we do in the United States, who have it worse than us. And we have our own human beings, and I say human being because it seems like we've lost the plot. The last I remembered when I was growing up, it was okay to be a human being. I didn't care about whether I was a male or a female or a unicorn or a whatever. Why is it so? You need to ask yourself a question. Why is it so important to have a classification of a pronoun? And why is it so important for the governments of the world to implement this as a civil rights issue? And why are they promoting this in universities and colleges and high schools and kindergartens? And why are they promoting this at the political level? And why is it being thrusted and forced upon everybody to have to use these so-called pronouns or gender identities? When did we lose the plot to just be a human being? Whether you're a male, female, unicorn, gay, straight, up, down, left, right, that's irrelevant. Why is it being compelled speech to have to force citizens around the world to submit to this type of chaos? And I have a theory I would like to propose to you. My theory is, and there's a lot of evidence to back me up, you could go look at the data, do your own research, right? In fact, it's not a theory because we're seeing it play out now. This is where cancel culture stems from. Cancel culture stems from this exact mindset, right? The whole reason that this entire movement exists is not because of civil rights, my dear ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, as much compassion and as much heart and as much love and as much care you want to give to people who are suffering like this, I truly hope that those people find the help and the care that they need. But they are stepping out of boundary when it becomes a movement to compel speech, to force someone else at will to have to say to you something that you want to hear when you did not even earn it. Last I checked, you have to earn the label, whatever that is. Whether you're a movie star or a good worker or whatever label you want to give yourself, you have to play the role and earn that label. You cannot force another human being to give you something that you did not earn. It seems to me that this entire movement is breeding a generation of human beings that are being conditioned and whitewashed, forgive my pun, into thinking that it's okay to force other human beings to just respect you up front when you don't give anything in return. And it's falsely giving the idea to these human beings that it's okay to impose your will on other human beings when that's the very same thing that you are asking for yourself. It's ludicrous. We have to wake up and realize that this ultimately is a communist Marxist tactic. I said it. I said what I said. It has nothing to do with civil rights. It has everything to do with perverting and being coercive and manipulating the entire social cultural system to a point where no one knows what they are anymore. And they have lost the plot that they are a human being. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what we all are, regardless of what gender you want to call yourself. When did we decide that we're going to nitpick and try to label ourselves as small? It actually reflects on how degenerate and debased our entire culture has become. That we've lost the plot of being a human being and reduced down to male, female, pronouns, and the list goes on, right? Why are we so hung up on these little things? I'll tell you why. And it's obvious to me. I hope it's obvious to you, which is why I'm presenting my case. If we get a culture of people who are confused about what gender they are, what identity are they, right? Where they belong. As you start to push this virus through your culture and your society, you will now start to get a nation of watered down, sorry to say, weak-minded individuals who cannot stand up to pressure or push themselves in any scenario. They will not be able to stand up to a foreign army, God forbid if we ever come to that point, because they will be so caught up in being mentally fragile and broken, like the video we just saw. Because there are hundreds of videos like this on TikTok, by the way. I don't know if they're on purpose to sort of groom the public or it might be real. I don't know. But the reason that this has become political is purely because the objective is to manipulate and change the meaning of language. This is the key point. Once you understand that it's to change the meaning of language, because that's what ultimately this is about. It is about changing the definitions of language so that our politicians can slowly sneak in through a back door and start changing the definitions at the Supreme Court level of our Constitution. That's where this is headed. You can love thy neighbor. You can love these people for the confusion and the heartache and the things that they're going through, and you can have compassion. And believe me, I do. I want to be there for people like this. To be honest, I usually keep my distance because it's a draining energy on me. It drains you down because as a healthy human being, you just want to get the maximum you can get out of life and contribute the highest you can contribute to your society, right? And then you come across people like this who drain the life force out of you because they're needy, they're begging, they're dying for attention and these labels, and they don't realize that they're serving an agenda that will ultimately, in the end, backfire and also imprison them. They have been weaponized to achieve a goal that when that time comes, God forbid, I hope enough of us stand up to this, but when that time comes, even these people who are crying and struggling and suffering to get a pronoun or an identity or a label will in turn be the very victims of the world that they are creating themselves. This is why we need to wake up, because that time is accelerating very quickly and coming to a point where the very people like this who we saw, the very people like this who we're seeing all over the place, who are trying to instigate and force and compel speech and change definitions and come up with 1,000,001 different types of labels and identities and genders and all this stuff, don't realize that they are ultimately a tool for the establishment to destroy the nation and its culture. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to come to an understanding and an agreement that we have to speak up and stand your ground and do not allow things like this to manipulate your emotion and dictate the outcome of your nation. It's extremely important. Stop allowing them to manipulate your emotion, your sentimentality, and approach this from as best as possible in a logical manner. You have to see where this is headed. You have to understand where this is going. You have to see the ultimate conclusion of this. There's a reason this is being pushed in kindergarten. There's a reason that the libraries of every community has books about transgenderism and pronouns and sexuality for children. There's a reason that this is happening. You have to understand what a culture war and a psychological war is. And it's effective. And it takes generations. 1 to 2 generations, it's all it takes. I'm going to post a link to a Russian KGB defector who came to the United States and trained United States intelligence officers about this. He warned about this in the 1980s. Ladies and gentlemen, that is here now. We are living through that time. And now more than ever, we have to be alert, we have to be prepared, and we have to be willing to face what is coming. This is no longer a question of compassion or sincerity or anything like that. That you can do on a personal basis. On a one-on-one basis with someone, you do that. But at the political level and at the cultural level, we have to push back. And with that, I leave you with a thought. What kind of an America or a USA or a country do we want for the future? What kind of a world are we trying to create for ourselves and our future children? Do we want a world where American citizens are soft, pliable, bendable, weak, easily broken, depressed? We already have that. Many of us are already fighting to build a stronger nation, to build bigger perspectives, to push gratitude into the society, to show that we actually live in paradise compared to many nations around the world and don't even know it. So in the words of John F. Kennedy, I leave you with this. Ask not what a nation can do for you, but ask, what can I do for my nation? Please, continue to be loving, caring, and compassionate. But when you see foolery, idiocracy, nonsense, it is your duty as a citizen of the nation you live in, no matter what nation you live in, to stand up to it. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. That is your civic duty. It is your civic right to speak up when you see nonsense. I do not want a country of weak children. Yes, there are ways to increase love and compassion in the nation, but it does not have to partake or manifest in this manner. It does not have to. That's the important thing we need to come back to. We don't have to allow this manipulation of emotion so that politicians are pushing policies to take away our sovereign rights and bend us into a will, into this submissive state where we will get up one day, we will wake up one day and realize that our freedoms are gone. And why? Because we have become complacent. And we kept thinking, oh, this is nothing. It means nothing. Well, it's staring us in the face now. And it's time to have a talk. It's time to speak. It's time to talk to each other. And it's time to let our politicians know that we will no longer put up with this level of manipulation. Ask yourselves, why is this the dominant narrative being pushed in the mainstream right now? Why? What's the goal? What's the objective? Who does it benefit? You have to start thinking like this with everything that you see. It's what some of the best investors do. It's what some of the best pioneers of our society do. This is how they think. They always ask the right questions. God bless. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.
This video is not mine. It is a lecture video given by Thomas Schumann. His real name is Yuri Bezmenov. He gave this lecture back in 1980s. It took me a while to find this golden nugget. And the reason I uploaded this video on my channel is because it is a great lecture that helps us in understanding the current political scenario both around the world as well as in our own country. And I believe it needs to be seen. After watching this, you will be able to relate what is happening today in many Western societies like America and Europe. And unfortunately, it is also happening in India. Since it's a long video, please watch it whenever you have time. And maybe you all get a bit more educated. The video starts now.